Tech Electronics. The power of connection and protection.
Vision Pro is an emergency call system that is comprised of 3 components. Devices such as bed stations, bath pulls, and pendants allow the residents to communicate immediate needs with the staff. Pagers are set up with escalation paths to alert up to 3 levels of staff, including CNAs, nurses, and administration. The Council acts as the brains of the system, communicating active calls, check-ins, faults, warnings, and the location of pendants. This interface can also be used for direct communication with the pagers and contains a dynamic report on resident call and response activity. In this course, we will concentrate on the Council itself as an administrative tool that you can use to manage your Vision Pro system. Escalation. Vision Pro is an emergency call system that allows a resident to call for help using a pull cord, bath station, or pendant. That very first press of the button sets off a series of events. The moment that the resident presses the call light button, a message is sent to the level 1 pagers in that area. Usually these pagers are carried by the CNA staff, and the message will show the room number, the time of the call, and the type of call station, such as a bed or a bath. If the call has not been cleared in 4 minutes, the original pagers will receive a repeat message. If the call has not been cleared in 8 minutes, a message will be sent to the original pagers and the nurse on duty. If the call has not been cleared in 12 minutes, the system will stop paging the CNAs and the nurse on duty and begin paging the administrator every 4 minutes until the call is cleared. So, how do we clear the call before it escalates to the administrative staff? Let's roll that timer back to the 4-minute mark so you can clear the call before the nurse on duty and the administrator are alerted. This step is simple. The moment you walk in the room, go to the wall device and clear the call. In this case, a bed station has been activated, so the staff member presses and holds the black cancel button until the red light goes out. The moment a staff member uses the cancel button to clear the call, the escalation timer stops. When the call has been canceled, the CNA pagers will display the cancel message for that call. Monitor information. The Council for the Vision Pro system is typically located in an area easily accessible to administrative staff and is dedicated to running just the Vision Pro software. This computer should be plugged in and always running as it is the brains of the system. The main display should be maximized at all times. If the program is ever closed, the system will not function properly. In the rare case that someone would close the Vision Pro software, you can reopen the program by double-clicking the Vision Pro icon on the computer desktop. It will require a password to open. Contact your IT department for the password for your community. Let's begin with a tour of the software interface. The large gray panel on the right displays all active calls, alerts, and faults. We'll look at each of these lines more closely in a moment. The left pane shows the area or wing description. Listed and indented below this description are the assigned resident rooms or apartment numbers. The toolbar across the top of the main Vision Pro screen contains icons for easy access to standard features. If these icons are grayed out, it means that the administrator password must be entered. You will need to contact your IT department for the administrator password used at your community. To open the grayed out icons, click the password symbol. Enter the password for your community. Notice the icons at the top of the screen are now available for use. To close the icons so that staff can see the active calls but not access administrative tools, simply click the password icon again and click OK at the prompt. The toolbar itself contains many icons that are not used at Lutheran Senior Services. In this lesson, we will concentrate on the following icons and functions which are used. The password icon enables accessibility to the rest of the administrative icons. The configure icon opens each room, which will allow you to change names and manage pendants. The radio page icon allows you to send manual messages to groups of pagers. The print icon will print the current list of active calls. In order to use the print icon, there must be an associated printer for the Vision Pro console. Please consult your IT staff to set up this printer. The reminder icon allows you to schedule reminder messages for groups of pagers. The report icon allows you to run historical reports regarding the number of calls taken and the average response times. Faults. Sometimes a fault will appear on the monitor as a pink communication line similar to the one on this screen. Any line that shows up in pink indicates that a device is not communicating back to the system properly. The system is programmed to send out a query to all its associated devices, and it expects to hear a reply back from each one. If a fault appears on your monitor, the system did not get a reply back from that device. Let's look more closely at the information shown on these faults. The first field tells us the date and time when the fault occurred. The state field tells us what type of communication warning we are getting, low bat or fault. The type field tells us what type of device is in fault. This could be a bed or bath station, pendant, motion detector, or any other device that has lost communication. The room field will tell you the room number or the location of the device. The bed field will indicate which bed is affected. In general, this only applies to bed stations in a room shared by 2 residents. The occupant field will give the name of the resident. In general, only pendants will display an occupant's name. Let's focus on the state field for a moment. The 2 most common fault states are low bat and fault. What are possible causes for these 2 states? If the device is in low battery fault, it simply means that the battery is nearing the end of its life and must be replaced. All of the alerting devices in this system are wireless, meaning that they are each running on battery power. The life expectancy of each battery will vary based on the type of battery, its brand, and how often it is being used. If the state is listed as fault, it means that the system has lost communication with the device. If a resident activates a device that is in fault, it will not communicate back to the system, which means that no pages will be sent when it is activated. Essentially, the resident will call for help and no one will know that they have even called. Here are some examples of a fault. A pendant could be out of range and not check into the system on time. A device might have sent a reply back to the system, but the reply was not on time. A device could have a battery that is dead. A device could be broken or not working properly. As the administrator of the system, you are generally the first person, and in some communities the only person, who will see the pink fault line items. What action should you take when you spot a fault? If it is a low bat fault, contact the plant ops or maintenance personnel to have the battery in the device changed. It is very important to make this request the first time you see a device in low bat fault, as it will eventually become a true fault when the battery dies. If it is a true fault, there are a few actions that you can take before involving plant ops or maintenance. 1. For pendants, determine if the pendant has been taken off campus and is out of range. Perhaps the resident is on a day trip, at the doctor's, or a relative. Later in this lesson, we'll discuss ways to handle that particular scenario. 2. For all other devices, it could be that the device is working properly but simply did not check in on time. Double-click the line item. If the only issue was a timely response, the line will clear from the screen and not return. It could take 10 to 15 minutes for the line to reappear. 3. If you have double-clicked the fault and it returns to the screen, then the device is truly not communicating with the Vision Pro system, and it is therefore not functioning at all. When the screen is indicating a true fault that will not clear, it is a very serious situation. Contact the plant ops or maintenance personnel for your community immediately. Check-in. Some communities use a resident check-in process to assure that independent residents are awake and moving by a certain time each day. Depending on which community you work in, you may have residents walking past a motion sensor, pressing a button on the wall, or a sensor that checks that a toilet has been flushed that morning. Regardless of the type of device that is used for your check-in process, you will receive a list on the monitor of residents that have not checked in for the day. At this particular community, residents have until 11 a.m. to check in. It is important to follow your community's procedure for contacting the resident. A phone call, a knock on the door, or a visit from security staff to ensure that the resident is okay. Do not click on the check-in line on the monitor until you are sure that the resident is safe. Once you are sure that the resident is okay, simply double-click on the check-in line on the monitor to clear it. As you can see, we've just cleared the check-ins from this monitor. Pendants. Some communities provide a pendant for independent residents. The pendant is worn around the resident's neck on a lanyard. If the resident needs help, they can press the button on the pendant, which will send a message to the pagers and follow the general escalation plan that we talked about earlier. A pendant must be cleared or canceled at the device itself, which will ensure that a staff member has an opportunity to see and assess the resident in person. Since pendants are mobile, sometimes a resident may not be in their room or expected location. If you select the pendant alarm on your computer monitor and then press the Shift and L key, you will see a pop-up window that gives the original repeaters that received the alert. This can help narrow down the location of the resident based on the names of the repeaters that first received the call. Most communities choose to assign an occupant name for residents with pendants. This is easy to manage if you need to update or change a name. Find the correct room or apartment on the left-hand list. You may have to scroll down or open an area to see the correct room. Click the plus sign to open the room. Select bed 1 or 2 by double-clicking on it. A room details window will pop up. Click on the occupant name field and type in the correct name. Click OK to close the window, then click the Save icon at the top of the screen. Another way to access the room details is through the Configure icon. Single-click the Configure icon. From the Station drop-down, select the correct area. From the list of rooms, single-click the correct room to highlight it. Single-click the Details button. The Details window will open. Change the name, as discussed earlier. If a resident takes a pendant off campus, the system will not be able to communicate with the pendant and will list the pendant in fault. In order to prevent the pendant from setting off daily fault alerts, you can put the pendant on vacation mode. Open the room and the appropriate bed details window using either of the two methods just demonstrated. Check the box next to Pendant Lost on Vacation. Click the OK button and the Save icon at the top of the screen. Putting the pendant into vacation mode will discontinue the alerts while the pendant is gone. When the pendant arrives back on campus, a new line will appear on the screen indicating that the pendant is within range again. Double-click the alert to add the pendant back into the system. When a new resident is assigned a pendant, open the resident window as before using either method. Under the Bed 1 name, enter the first and last name of the resident. If there are two residents in the same apartment, enter the second resident as Bed 2. Check the box next to the words Has Pendant. Look at the back of the pendant and note the ID number. Enter the numerical portion of the ID in the pendant ID field. For example, this pendant is 5289. Press OK and the Save icon at the top of the screen. In the case of a pendant that has been broken and needs to be replaced, simply open the Room Details window as before. Clear the ID number from the pendant ID field and enter the new ID number of the new pendant. Remember that you are only entering the numerical portion of the ID. Give the resident the new pendant and place the broken pendant in a bag or envelope, clearly marked with the pendant's ID number, the name of the resident, and the details of the issue. Contact Plant Ops to pick up the broken pendant. Sometimes a resident will report a pendant as lost. This is a very special scenario that requires some detailed record keeping. It is important to keep the lost pendant in the system. There is a possibility that the resident could find the lost pendant and begin using it again. If the pendant ID of the lost device had been removed from the system entirely, then there is a chance that the resident could call for help using an inactive pendant. To ensure that both pendants are properly entered in the system, please use the following procedure. When the resident reports a lost pendant, open the Room Details window as before. Change the name of the occupant to Lost, followed by the name. In the Notes section, type Lost, followed by the date, the new ID number, and Bed 4. click OK and the Save icon. Open bed 4 for the same room. Name the occupant Replaced, followed by the name. Check the box next to Has Pendant. Enter the ID of the new pendant into the field marked ID. In the Notes section, type Replaced, followed by the date, the lost ID number, and the bed number where the lost ID was programmed. Click the OK button and the Save icon. Now, if Mrs. Carr finds her lost pendant and begins using it, you will see a unique call line on the monitor describing that pendant as lost. This will allow you to recover the replacement pendant from Mrs. Carr. Paging. We know that the pagers are used for communication when a resident activates a device. But did you know that you can also send manual pages out to groups of pagers? To send a message to a group of pagers, click on the radio page icon at the top of the screen. The manual page window will open. Type the message you wish to send in a field next to Message. Highlight the pager or group of pagers and click the Send button. Your message will be immediately sent to the selected pagers. Messages can also be sent on a schedule. Some communities send a message 15 minutes before the end of each shift as a reminder to clear the messages on the pager and turn them in for the next shift. To schedule a reminder page, click on the reminder icon at the top of the screen. The reminder information window will open. If you have reminders already set up in your community, you will see them listed here. You can edit existing reminders or create a new one by clicking the Add button. The Add Reminder information box will open. Type the message you wish to send in the reminder text field. Now set the time and date that you want the message to be sent. If this is a daily reminder text, select the daily checkbox, which will disable the date. Now assign the pager group by checking the pager checkbox and selecting the correct pager group from the drop-down menu. Click OK to save this reminder. Now a new page will be sent to that group of pagers every time that the scheduled time and the date is reached. Reports. Everything that we've reviewed up to this point has been available under the administrator password that we entered at the beginning of this course. Opening the Report module will require an additional password. Select the Statistical Call Analysis Report icon at the top of the screen. A login prompt will appear requesting the password. Enter the password SCAZEKE and select OK. This special report password is used for all communities. The Statistical Call Analysis window will open. You can use the fields at the top to narrow the request by station or area, by room, or by selecting a new start and ending date range. Once you have adjusted the filters, select Show Data, and the window will open with the desired information. This report will give you a line-by-line list of every call placed within the date range you selected. For each individual call, you will see the exact date and time the call was placed, the room number, the type of device, and the response time, or the number of minutes it took to clear the call at the device. On the right-hand area of the window, you will see an average response time, along with the total amount of time that all calls were alerting, and the total number of calls that alerted during the selected time frame. If your console has been configured with a printer, you can print the report. A new report can be run by adjusting the filters and selecting the Show Data button again. Select Done to close the report window. Thank you for your time. We hope that you have gained more information about administering your Vision Pro system, a valuable life safety tool.